very fun one for us, I think. It's very exciting to have these two gentlemen next to me on the same panel. And the idea for this panel, and the title is Separating the Wheat from the Chaff. Every emerging technology has a lot of hysteria surrounding it, and so understanding and recognizing patterns historically of emerging technologies is something that I think is a bit of intuition, but also experience. And so kind of the description of this title really focuses around the Gartner Hype Cycle. I think we've exited the Trough of Disillusionment and are about to enter what is called the slope of Enlightenment. And that's a very exciting time for emerging technologies. And so with that, I'm very excited and honored to be on a panel with Mr. Christian Angermayer, who I had met probably in one of the earlier CFC days.
And before.
And before that, yeah, many, many times over the years. And has been doing venture investing in all sorts of emerging technologies and life sciences for a number of years now. And Mr. Howard Morgan, who I've had the benefit of knowing for some time and was a supporter of my firms over the years and an investor himself since venture investing since 1978. Co-founded a small, somewhat known financial firm called Renaissance Technologies, as well as First Round Capital. And most recently, although not that recent, co-founded B Capital with Eduardo Saverin, co-founder of Facebook. And so kind of has a full spectrum outlook on the world of investing. And so I think with that, we have an enormous base of historical pretext and knowledge here on the stage, myself excluded. And so I think what we want to start with here is, actually, let's go back. Why don't we give a current introduction of each of you, explain what you're doing today, what you're most focused on, and then we can start from there.
Okay, people would say most focused is the question Christian can never answer because I've been doing a lot, but I'm running my own investment firm, Apeiron. It's mostly my family office, and then in some funds we also have outside money. I started ages ago when I was 19 in biotech, completely pattern recognition very early on. I thought the guys were cool. My two tutors when I was 19 at university talked them into starting a company with me. Literally did not fully, I understood a little bit what we were doing, but not fully. I was responsible for capital raising. That went really well because they, hindsight, all credit to them, had made a discovery of a lifetime. It's now a $40 billion biotech company, and that was sort of then the kickoff. And since then, I'm building companies, so 2-3 a year, where we have the original idea. The one I'm most proud of, which I think half of you know because I talked to them about it, is I had the idea to bring psychedelics back into the medical world as medical treatment for depression, anxiety, addiction. 10 years ago, it's going super well. We're going to be approved with the first medical drug in 1.5 years. And we also invest in companies, 4 themes: biotech, broad tech from low tech to space tech, crypto, and then the antithesis to all of that is our hospitality division, because I believe people will have much more free time because of AI. So we invest a lot in stuff. Where do they spend this time, from hotels to live entertainment and that? So pretty broad. At the end, maybe last sentence, when I had my first success, I was, what do I really want to do in life? I don't want to work with assholes. Yeah, it sounds simple, but it's the biggest, I think, positive thing of being an entrepreneur is picking the people you can work with. And I just want to do things which personally excite me, because why should I do things which are boring and just make you money? There is enough of intersection of things I really love doing, like psychedelics, literally, and other stuff. So that's what I'm doing.
Right now, I'm running, as Michael said, B Capital, which is about an $8 billion venture fund, global, based in Singapore and with offices all over Asia and the US. And we are investing early stage. We have a $500 million fund that does typical digital healthcare, enterprise software, but a few more interesting things. We have a brain-computer interface company I'm very excited about called Precision Neuroscience. We have a space technology company called Starcatcher that puts satellites above the current satellites, and when they lose one of their solar panels, we can beam energy onto their other solar panel so that we can keep them aloft and not having to deorbit. And we've just made an investment in Apeiron, humanoid robotics, which will give the people the free time to go to his hotels, which I think will be interesting. In my family office, so that's a third of my time. A third of my time is philanthropy and travel. I've now been to 105 countries. I added 105 last week in Brunei. And by the end of the summer, I will be in 111, if everything goes well. But in the other third is my family office. And there we have a barbell strategy We either invest in things that trade in minutes, which is quant funds, which I know quite well for obvious reasons, including a number of quant crypto funds, such as Block Tower, which I helped get off the ground, and a few others. And the other side of it is venture, which has 10, 15-year horizon. But when it pays well. First round capital 2, one of the funds that we started with partner Josh Koppelman, returned 50x. It was a nice fund, and it had in it Uber, which started in our office, and it had in it another company which we turned down, but the partner involved said, no, you made a mistake. I'm bringing my 8-year-old son to pitch you on Roblox. And we did Roblox, which even returned even more than Uber did, which is kind of crazy. So, and what I enjoyed, kind of the same thing that Christian said, my best skill in life is picking great partners. So my wife of 57 years, my Jim Simons, Josh Koppelman, Eduardo Saverin, and all the entrepreneurs that I love to nurture. And the same as I did with my graduate students in my 15-year academic career, I do with entrepreneurs for the last 40 years.
Very nice. And so you all have the benefit of looking at kind of anything and everything that comes across your table. I spend most of my time in the world of crypto the last 8 years, and somewhat increasingly AI infrastructure from the board of TerraWolf. But I think what I want to focus on, or actually sort of step back from a focus, I want to get towards sort of crypto and what that means for you all going forward. But I want to break it down in 3 sections. So the then and now, the where and when, and then the future. So for the then and now, I think, again, going back to the fact that we have 2 folks with enormous experience here, what are the key differences in venture investing today versus when you began in biotech or when you started investing in the late 70s and 80s, or even in the early 2000s? I think we've come quite far from then alone. So we can start with you, Christian.
What is the key difference? I think if you look at crypto, like in anything which is tokenized, the liquidity event is much quicker. So I think sort of the cycles are shrinking.
Or even more broadly, let's take a big step back. Venture investing broadly, the pattern recognition, what you do today that's different from the world that you started in.
Then I think we say it's very similar, it's the same. At the end, you find great entrepreneurs who have a novel, disruptive idea. Then it stays really the same. Like if you go there, like I think on that level, on that deep level, I would say it's the same.
I would say the thing that's really changed is that there have been so many more people in the game. Yeah. So that means 2 things. One, basic economics, the prices have gone up. So you're not getting as wonderful prices unless you incubate the companies yourself. And I think that's a big difference. When we started first round, there were no seed stage funds. We were the first formal seed stage fund. There were angel investors, but there weren't seed stage funds. When Jim and I were investing in the venture side of Renaissance in the 80s, there were 150 members of the National Venture Capital Association. That grew to well over 1,000. I think it's 2,000 now. So it's just become a much bigger field, and finding the right companies has become not harder, but getting into the right deals has become harder because there are so many people, and they offer the entrepreneurs money, and we offer the entrepreneurs money, but also much more help and try to get them to understand that. Some do, some don't.
Got it. And then venture investing, finding great founders is one part of it. Liquidity and actually returning value to your LPs is another part of it. Has any part of the capital market shifted in a way that you think is meaningful in the last, call it 10 to 15 years?
I would say this. In 2001, we had the big bang. We changed from trading stocks in eighths. So when stocks were traded in eighths, there was 12.5 cents commission on every share sold. And that money was used by a bunch of the firms to create research. So if you took a small company public in 1995, and we took 6 companies public in 95 from our venture activity, and they were $50 million, maybe $100 million IPOs, but they would trade 1 million shares a day, and that was $12,500 for the brokers, $3 million a year. So they had conferences and research, and they really hyped all the stocks, and there was a huge ability to create small and mid-cap stocks. When that 12.5 cents became 1/10 of a cent, that all went away. And it just completely changed the liquidity for small ventures. So you had to grow them much bigger, or they had to be acquired by one of the big tech giants. And it made a real difference in liquidity. And of course, in the last 5 years, in the zero interest rate environment and the environment where there were much fewer IPOs and much tougher to get a company public, it means our LPs are waiting longer to get their money back. and to get hopefully much more than their money back.
So you both mentioned finding great founders as sort of the core to venture, and I tend to agree. In your multi-decade history of investing, what are the typical traits or characteristics of those founders that you've recognized time and time again of your most successful outcomes? Are there recognizable characteristics?
Yeah, no,
or are these unique
there are. We have a framework we call 6 Ps, but on the people side, obviously, you want integrity, you want intelligence, you want drive. Some of the Ps are sort of what product are they doing, what market, and by the way, we all say that the entrepreneur is the most important thing in the decision, but that's a lie. The most important thing is how big is the market they're attacking. Is the market really big enough or going to be big enough? And you don't always know that. With Uber, we were attacking a market that was 100 million a year in the San Francisco area. 3 years later, we were doing 500 million a year in San Francisco alone. But market size is very important. The 2 key things for me for a founder are passion and persistence. Are they passionate about what they're doing? And that passion and storytelling can convince me as an investor, can convince customers, can convince employees to join them on the ride. And they have to show that passion to me. That's very important. And the other thing is persistence, which I try to figure out and find out from other people. What happens when they hit a snag? Because ventures don't go straight up, I guess this way for you guys looking. But there's always some rocky times. And what happens during those rocky times when their spouse is complaining that they're spending too much time on the business and they're not getting paid enough and it's going to be another 3 years before anything happens? Can they last through that? And those are critical components.
I would say the same, and there is a little bit of, and it's very hard to describe. I was thinking all the time about it. Like intuition is sometimes a feeling you can't describe, and maybe to add, because everything you said is to add. I think one of the other talents is to really listen to intuition, and I think, at least if I am very honest to myself, I think the negative side was always like greed and speed. So if you say, oh God, I need to make more money because everybody's making money, I need to make more money and I need to make it quicker. Yeah, I made the worst decisions because then I really remember certain decisions on people especially, where I kind of knew that it's not the person I want to work with. Like sort of the subjective feeling, I shouldn't do it, but then sort of these greed and speed in my mind was, but it's the right industry and it's gonna work out and it's da-da-da-da-da, and then I did it. Yeah, and I did it because of sort of these external or internal, whatever we call it, pressure, and I was wrong. I think, so half is intuition, and then half is really trusting your intuition, saying no when your intuition says no, whatever.
Yeah. So passion, persistence, patience, and a good partner.
Always good partners, and I think you're right. I mean, understanding that your intuition, which has been developed over 40 years or 20 years, it's really pattern recognition and your brain telling you things.
But it's very hard to put it in a formula.
Yeah, it's not a formula. And the other thing about founders is you're going to have to work with them for a decade. So do I want to spend a decade talking to this person every week or even more often sometimes? And if I don't, then yeah, it's a great idea and you'll probably be successful, but you're not the kind of person I want to work with.
Yeah. I was thinking, is this televised? Because I can tell like fantastic anecdote about all of that. Like, I don't know if this is public. Is this like I make it
I think
without...
those sessions are recorded and distributed. But
I make it without a name. Like there was one of the big crypto companies which failed later. I had a negative feeling at the beginning and said that on Twitter. It's still online. So, and then this crypto company made a meteoric rise. And then all my friends and my colleagues said, you're a fucking idiot because you ruined that relationship. They're not going to work with us. You need to take that back. And I was like, okay, it's about making money. I'm going there. I'm saying sorry for that tweet. I did that. And that person said, oh, can you do me some favors? I would like to meet European politicians. So I organized that. And there was this one moment where he was like, oh, let's talk about the brain because that's one of our key things, and told me like that he's taking 5 Vyvanse a day, which is like a stronger version of Adderall, and in order to come down, you have to take Ambien. So I was thinking for myself, when did I hear that cocktail the last time? And literally one of my science colleagues wrote a book which is called Hitler's Drugs, because that was the cocktail which they used in the Second World War. You take high amphetamines during the day, which, by the way, does one thing. It completely eliminates your ability to risk management. So I should have said, in this company, which I don't want to name, risk management is not existent. Because if you take that amount of amphetamines, it is not, you believe you're God. Yeah, and you really believe it, by the way. But instead, and now comes the critical part, and I'm in neuroscience, I was like, but if this person is doing it and has this success, maybe we should revisit that stuff and should do a study on it. Like maybe like I'm all about wrong about it. I wasn't wrong, but like I convinced myself because everybody told me like, you need, this is amazing. And again, that shows like sometimes half is the intuition and half is like not like falling into these, and we all do more or less, like, but into these sort of manias and like sort of group thinking, whatever. And it's much harder than you think. It's so easy to say on a panel, and I did it so often wrong. Yeah, and I try not, like, but it's a permanent sort of reminding yourself of these things.
Yeah, not letting the cycle get a hold of you.
Yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned founder, but also target market. Basically, what is the comp group trading at from a valuation standpoint? Can it be something within that realm? I think crypto's always benefited from having sort of this unbound upside because there is no valuation framework. That's something that excited all of us. It's something that we've experienced in each cycle where you're seeing projects trade at north of $20 billion valuations with no real financial model behind it, but that is just the way the crypto world worked at that point in time. In identifying, again, just going back to broader venture or even within crypto, how do you assess, what did crypto resemble to you that you've seen historically that you said, I'm aware that I can't comprehend a quantitative size of this market, but it's something I want to be involved in?
Well, back in 2012, we started looking at crypto. Josh and I bought some Bitcoin at $90, still have that Bitcoin. Well, most of it. I sold 10% a year later at 900, but the rest is there. I had read Cryptonomicon, what's his name's book, Neil Stephenson, and it sort of laid out what it was eCash in the time and eGold, but it basically laid out the crypto economy, and I remembered that. The book was probably 2008 or 9, and I said, gee, this could be really interesting because there are so many countries which have currency controls that people want to get around and things like that. And so we started looking at crypto, and again, as you say, we realized it kind of had unlimited, relatively speaking, upside. But then the question was, how do you find out what to invest in? And we did a few investments, some of which worked out. Abra's working out okay, but it's taken much longer to do things. We did Coinbase, which has worked out very well, obviously. And the question was, how much do we want to put into this? Because it was still early and we were still watching these crazy swings in price. So it was going to be very volatile. When we started B Capital, we decided to go into the picks and shovels. We did Falcon X, and then we did CoinDCX and a few other plays and some NFT plays, which we did the NFT plays. We did one at 12 million pre-money, and 2 months later, somebody came in at 90 million. And it was like, I'm not so sure that was a great idea at 12 because if they're doing this, it looks great on paper, but, and of course, as the NFT bubble burst a bit, it came back down to that similar level we went in at. But I think we realized it had unlimited, and it was also attracting very smart people. One of the things that I found was when you talk to the people doing the crypto companies, and I was a computer science professor for 15 years, these were really smart people. And if they were devoting their time to this, there's probably something there.
I think I gave enough hints. Or I do it in a one-on-one after, but not on...
I will say one thing. We were asked at B Capital to invest in FTX.
Ooh.
And
coincidence.
And here's what I'm not saying that's the company, but what happened was we set up a Zoom with Sam for noon Bahamas time, and my partner Eduardo, who is known is quite wealthy, obviously, but also very smart. And my other partner, Raj, they get on the Zoom at noon, and somebody comes on the Zoom, and he looks at them and he says, "Oh, you're here, Eduardo. You're actually here. Okay, I'll go wake Sam up." And Eduardo said, "If he's not up to talk to me when the Zoom is ready, we're out." And we dodged the bullet.
Well done. There you go. There's a little rule of thumb.
Yeah.
If the founder's sleeping during the call.
If the founder's sleeping during the call, I probably don't want to invest.
Okay. I'll kind of speed through the where and when part of this discussion because we have about 9 minutes left. But infrastructure versus applications. You mentioned picks and shovels and Coinbase on the exchange side, FalconX on the trading infrastructure side. You've invested in hard infrastructure on Northern Data with mining. Where do you guys see your investments evolving today? Do we feel as though the infrastructure has been mature and developed enough where you can now look at the application side? And then, from my world, we invest in obviously equity and tokens. I know that some of you have differing opinions in terms of what you invest in. You prefer equity, or some people just prefer the token side because of the unbound or uncapped potential upside. How has your thinking evolved or not on the infrastructure versus application debate?
So we're still a lot in the infrastructure. As you say, we have Northern Data, which is a miner and an AI company. We have a stake in Bullish, which is an exchange and stuff like that. Because that I can, exactly what you said, I can measure. Like it's like sort of not real well. I don't want to discount sort of token valuations. It's just like we all, I think, would agree. We don't know, as you said, like what are valuation frameworks for tokens. Then I'm very much like, I don't want to be Bitcoin maximalist because we do other stuff, but very focused on Bitcoin because that at least for myself, I understand as a replacement for gold. Again, you have at least a benchmark. Yeah, both valuations are kind of not benchmarking to let's say corporate valuations, but I can say, look, humanity apparently gives gold, what is it now, 11 trillion valuation. So that is what humanity at the moment gives a store of value. So if Bitcoin capture half of that, all of that, and then I think because of inflation that will also grow. So that I understand. On a token side, we're more a founder, and I'm very honest always when I talk to other investors because I really don't know how to value it. I think I can build great products. We just started a new payments chain with support of the likes of Peter Thiel and Bitfinex. I think it's a great company. The market will tell me because I couldn't tell the market what the valuation is.
We find it hard to invest in tokens. Our LPs are big institutions. Joe's here speaking at the next panel, I know, and he and I have talked about this a lot. So it's very difficult for us to do the token side of things. So we mostly are doing other things. Personally, I've invested in some of those. I've invested also in Lightning on the infrastructure side because I think we need to have a fast enough Bitcoin. I find it hard to imagine at this point that something else will overtake Bitcoin as the store of value. So it's a question of how fast this transaction can we have. And I've also invested in ordinals.
That's an interesting one. We'll get to that in a moment.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, so understood. So effectively, the way that your model works is dependent upon your existence. So you have a broad base of venture investments. A lot of those align with equity, traditional equity type investments. And so your LPs would be maybe concerned if you started going into the next token model.
And even Union Square Ventures, which I've been an LP in forever, we just got a nice distribution on the token side. But they've had a lot of trouble getting their LPs to understand.
Yeah, we have. So interestingly enough, my old firm, our first two LPs were Andreessen Horowitz's fund and Union Square Ventures fund. And it was because they didn't want to touch the tokens themselves, but they wanted that exposure to the market. And I think that's, to this day, I mean, it's 8 years at least in my history in crypto investing, and institutions, it's sort of, the institutions are coming still, it's still sort of getting there. But I think the token, and actually there was an interesting presentation earlier by Michael Higgins in Hidden Road, but as more regulated infrastructure comes into play, that could evolve. We'll see. Okay, so the future. This is kind of a quick targeted question, but have you ever experienced the government be as heavy-handed in any other industry that you were investing in as they have been or were, and hopefully will no longer be, in crypto?
Well, in biotech, of course, but not as heavy, not as
unpredictable.
Not as unpredictable. Not as sort of just, Gary Gensler is just I don't like this stuff, right? The FDA may say, I don't like your particular drug, or, I think you need to do more testing, but no, I've never seen another government agency act like that.
Yeah.
Same. Heavy-handed, yes, but like with a logic, with a framework, with predictability. Biotech is super regulated. I want to make it lighter, but at least they know what I get, and they treat everybody the same and whatever. What they did, they should be in prison, and that can be on record.
So choke point was reserved for crypto, and it was particularly.
Yeah. But by the way, if you call something Operation Choke Point, if I choke somebody in real life, I go to prison. If I do that in politics, I should go to prison.
Yeah, oh, I like
Yeah.
that. I agree. There we go.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay, one person agrees here. Okay, so let's spend the last 4 minutes on the future. I know you both have a lot of ideas about your existing portfolios and how they integrate with the emerging technologies, whether it be crypto-related, blockchain-related, AI-related, life science-related. Where do you see the future? And let's try and keep this closer to blockchain and crypto, integrating with some of these new emerging technologies.
Well, I think we're using AI for drug discovery very heavily, so those are coming together. To get intellectual property ownership, I think the blockchain can play a real role. And we've seen a couple of companies that are trying to get you to put your patent information, the notebooks that are usually used to create patents, to put that on a blockchain. So it's the irrevocable ledger. So that will really show when you created, when you did everything. So I think we're going to see some interesting pieces in there, and I'm excited about that side for the future. In general, I think the humanoid robotics is going to be huge, and as somebody showed this morning, you're going to pay the robots in Bitcoin. So.
Yeah, but if I stay to crypto, I would also say like DeSci is super interesting because the traditional financing models for biotech is a little bit broken. Actually, payments, which is not innovative, but I think it's still a huge market, and it's still like where crypto can play a much bigger role, stable coins, and then the railroads for that. I actually, if I may say one crypto thing, a non-crypto thing, because we have it in common, and the whole sector excites me a lot. We're also a big investor in precision neuroscience, and I think the whole BCI sort of brain-computer interface model for many reasons. First, I have a personal theory is too much, but like if I look at the last 10, 20 years, we didn't make huge advancements in physics and the understanding of the world and the cosmos. So I believe the reason could be that our brain, how it is limited or has reached the ceiling of our understanding and capability. So we could have now an AI do it for us, but that would not mean immediately that we would understand it. But I believe that brain-computer interfaces, so merging our brain with computer, will actually expand in many ways, but especially in the structural understandings of the universe, our capacities incredibly a lot. We have another company where they all do BlackRock Neuroscience, together with Tether, actually a crypto player. For one reason is because like at the very end, but that's sort of my personal vision, is a friendly version of what Oasis was in Ready Player One. Because the reason why we all believe we're sitting here, it's always like ask the question, why do you believe like you're watching us, like enjoying it hopefully or not, like whatever, is the ultimate answer is because your sensoric input is telling you that. So you see us, your bum feels the chair, maybe you feel the air conditioning, maybe you smell the coffee, but your 5 senses are creating an illusion, which I believe, so we don't even know what is reality fully, an illusion of reality. So we will be in like 20 years from now, which sounds a long time, but my high school anniversary was like 27 years ago, so it's, and I still feel like, yeah, yesterday, what I want to say, it's soon. It's going to be soon. We're all going to experience it. A brain-computer interface will be able to completely simulate sensoric input as if it's real. So you will not be able to distinguish it from reality, and that will mean you can do fully authentic virtual worlds, but they don't feel like a computer game. It's literally like we say the holodeck, whoever is a Star Trek fan, is actually not a room like they presented it in Star Trek. It's a chip in your brain, which will allow you completely live hundreds of lives, be different people, whatever, which infinitive will expand what we can be as a human being. So that's why I would say brain-computer interface is maybe the most interesting one at the moment. So.
I agree. I mean, that company is one that excites me. We do experience the world 40 milliseconds ago. So because of the time it takes for our brain to synthesize everything together. So it will be interesting if we when we have the chips and we can speed that up and get more true reality out of everything.
Now, on the way to that, which is like, I think the end hopefully will be these virtual worlds, which will be not virtual then anymore because they will be real, because as real as your life seems to be. But on the way already, we can do sort of crazy shit. Like we have a guy with a chip in his brain, and he has, by the way, and it's also not just about gaming. It's like he has ALS, like he's completely frozen in his body. And even his eyelids can't move anymore. So he has nothing in his body which can move. And we reading his thoughts and sending it to a computer, and the computer is speaking for him. So we have in Germany another team where we have an implant where we can send sound across the ear, because often the ear is broken. So with the old hearing aids are not don't function because they build on a broken ear. So we're sending the information directly to the brain. Which also works. So I have one person who can send thought to the computer, and I have another person who can receive sort of information from the computer. If I link that together, we're going to have the first real-life telepathy in like 5 years, where you can think and somebody else hears it in the brain. Think about what you can do. You sit there, you don't need Google Glasses, whatever. You sit there, you think, I'm like, shit, I don't know the answer now, and I just think, and I hear it in my, because I can connect to the internet and so on. I think the future is going to be, by the way, awesome. Like all what I'm doing the whole day is like, oh my God, like the next 20, 30 years is going to be fucking awesome.
And we'll get to Mars.
Yeah.
Yes.
So as the mind-body consciousness becomes more digitized, smart contracts, some form of blockchain, and the implications of AI on things like intellectual property will become increasingly more important. Very exciting. I have to come up to your research lab in Germany at some point and check out some of this stuff, and maybe check out some of the robotics.
Yep.
Because what's AI without
you should
capacity
see
to perform?
Yeah, embodied AI is amazing.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, well that is...
Somebody wanted to know our best and worst, right?
I was going to say between Uber and Roblox, I'm not quite sure. Either one I would take.
Roblox was the best, as it turns out. I mean, worst, when you talk about an early stage venture fund, so many go to zero. So the worst is really based upon founders who lied to you. They went to zero because the founder had lied to you, and I've had a few of those. So that I'm not naming.
Same, like worst is always zero. Maybe the thing is, like, I try actually, you have to take your learnings from the worst, but what happens is, and what I try to avoid a lot is, like, the older you get, if, again, coming back to my favorite topic, the brain, is like you structurally start overemphasizing negative information. And that actually takes, the older you get, takes, for most people, you seem, for example, be a difference, because like, but older people, like, and it starts aging, brain aging starts with 30, you start overemphasizing negative information, people lie to you, which happens all the time, by the way, unfortunately. Yeah, but like then I try to remind myself when that happened, okay, but there were 9 cases where I took sort of, with all the intuition, whatever we discussed before, the leap of faith, and sort of took a risk, did something new, and got really well paid for it. So I'm really like very focused on sort of not letting sort of my brain aging practically take away sort of that openness for the world, for people, and for opportunities.
Yeah, I would say, Howard, to your credit, you're a carefully critical optimist on...
No, I agree with that. I've spent a lot of the last 7 years on longevity and on trying to stay young mentally. Physically, what happens, happens. I've tried to stay young physically too, but for me, working on longevity is the other giant breakthrough of the next decade. And I think it'll within the decade we're going to see some dramatic results on extending healthy life. I don't want to be a vegetable, but on preventing and maybe even curing Alzheimer's and dementias and things of that sort. And that's world changing.
Oh, congrats on 111 countries. It sounds like you're going to get to a couple hundred more. Okay, great. So this was fantastic. We're a few minutes over time. We'll cut it off there. Thank you both very much for the
Thank you.
Time.
Thank you.
Thank you.